I say there's a paradigm shift going on in AI. Let me explain. For years, scientists working in the field of artificial intelligence have been trying to create thinking machines and modelling their work on human thought processes. Recently, though, that's changed. The artificial intelligences with which we interact, the sort that suggest what book you might like to buy, the sort that direct spam to your email, the sort that the CIA use to monitor electronic traffic, don't work like that. In fact, it seems that scientists don't really understand how they work and might not even care. To bring you up to speed on the old thinking in this area, let me introduce you to Professor Brett, creator of a computer installed in the post office tower in 1966.
Well, now, this machine, which I call Votan...
You call what?
Votan, spelled W-O-T-A-N, will operating thought analog.
Yes, it's quite
yes.
right.
Well, now, Votan can not only think faster than Polly or myself, it can also type faster.
True? Afraid so. And it never makes mistakes, wretched thing.
Are you seriously telling me, sir, that you have invented a machine that can think?
Yes.
And never makes mistakes?
Never.
John Harvey's Professor Brett explains the function of Votan to William Hartnell's Doctor Who and Annika Wills's Polly in a story from 1966 called The War Machines. And back here in 2013, the AI specialist Nello Cristianinini told me what happened next.
For 50 years, we have tried to build intelligent machines. We tried to model human intelligence. We pictured ourselves in 2001's Space Odyssey as people dealing with intelligent computers. And we thought in the future, one day, we are going to build and encounter such a machine intelligence. What we don't realize is that we have done it. And probably most of the listeners today have already dealt with artificial intelligence, because today's artificial intelligence lives on the web. You have autonomous decision-making agents that recommend books, that filter email. We trust them with planning our traveling and recommending our reading. And they make very complex decisions, and they learn from our actions and to improve and to pursue their goals. And this satisfies a very strong definition of intelligence. They are not general intelligence systems. They are very narrow. Each of them is designed to achieve one goal. One is designed to give you relevant web pages to a query. Another one is designed to translate. And they only do what they have to do. When you put them together, you start having this ecosystem of intelligent things that you deal with every single day. And that is the new form that artificial intelligence is taking today. Sometimes you are reading an email and you find on the side an advertisement referring to maybe a Google search you made, not within your email. And that's because those systems share personal data. So I think a question is always this: why am I being shown this?
What should our relationship be to these technologies? Should we be more aware of, in a way, kind of the radical oddness, the alienness of these computer intelligences? We should think of them, we should go through the same process that those working in this field have, and divorce our sense of it being analogous to a human intelligence in some way.
Let me give you an example of how today we emulate intelligent behavior. For example, you may want to recognize handwriting. And in the past, you would make it a lot of studies to try to model what a handwritten letter A would look like. And it takes a lot of mathematics to say what a letter A looks like. Nobody succeeded. Or you show the computer 20,000 handwritten examples of letter A. And the machine can today learn how to generalize. So this is something we do routinely. Every handwriting recognition tool is just trained from examples, large amounts of them. And that's the big discovery of modern AI. Vast amounts of examples do better than a sophisticated theory. And that's a surprise, because people spent 50 years trying to produce theories for everything, for language, for psychology, for handwriting. And now we discovered we didn't need them. We just need a lot of data and good machine learning tools to teach the machine to behave. And that discovery is behind what Google does and what Amazon.com does and what modern AI does, using data to generate behavior without a theory of this behavior. That's what we call data-driven AI.
Is it fantastic to suggest then that these intelligences they have these goals, they make these recommendations and suggestions to them? It sounds almost as if some kind of Skinner box is being constructed around us. This sounds like a kind of operant conditioning, but with artificial intelligences doing the conditioning and not some guy in a white coat.
It is indeed what it looks like, and it might explain why one of the main critics of this is Noam Chomsky, who became famous as a young researcher by criticizing Skinner. So it is the case. Everything looks very behavioristic in this moment. So the entire science is going increasingly data-driven, which is beautiful and also, unfortunately, disturbing in the sense that we rely less on explanation and more on statistical predictions. And then it's leaking even out of science, and people feel encouraged to do data-driven policy making, law enforcement, schooling, and so on. And one has to wonder, what worked for engineering, does it necessarily need to work for everything else? I don't know the answer, but we can see a lot of changes in medicine, for example, moving everything towards data-driven approaches, and I think it's great, but it must be taken with some caution, obviously.
So science is in the process of being eviscerated of its theoretical grounding, then?
Yes, the way we do science is changing, and the implications of this data-driven paradigm shift, so to speak, are not just for society, of course, privacy is a major issue for me, ethics. There is an issue of a philosophy of science. So is the point of science to make predictions or to provide explanations? Because we may find that very soon predictions will come more easily than explanations and cheaply, but we may be unable to explain it. And some people will be upset because science should explain things, and others will be satisfied because they just want to use their predictions. So we are going to approach that moment because of the way we started doing science now.
This sounds like a crisis point in some ways.
Well, science has survived bigger challenges than this, but certainly we are in a moment in which the paradigm has changed for artificial intelligence, and it is probably about to change for other parts of science. And when a paradigm changes, some people, the older people perhaps, are less happy. You always have the fundamentalists, so there will be some data fundamentalism and people who will say this is the new and the only way to do things. And as usual, we must be using our brain even more in these moments.
But what you're suggesting is that the question why will be asked with less frequency.
That is a serious risk for me, because I like to ask why, and I like to find out a good story explaining me why things work. I wouldn't be satisfied with just a prediction, although accurate one. But I think economically it would be cheaper one day to make a prediction than to explain why. It's a day within the next 10 years, many questions will be answered very well. So given a drug, a molecule, we can answer the question, does it bind, does it work, is it toxic, is it not? Before knowing why, we're going to see the answer, if it is or not useful. The why is going to take longer and more money.
You just made me think that in the 1960s series, The Prisoner, with Patrick McGoohan, satire on just this kind of thing in some ways.
Oh, really?
There is an episode about the community where this is set, signing over all their decision-making processes to a computer. The hero of the piece causes the computer to collapse simply by typing the word "why."
Wow.
And it
Oh,
all
that's beautiful.
blows up.
That is beautiful.
And 60s individualism triumphs.
What was the question?
It's insoluble for man or machine.
What was it?
WHY? Question mark.
Why?
Why?
Nello, Cristianinini, and you also heard from Patrick McGoohan. I'm